So, if you weren't here last week, surprise, this week we're going to be talking about sex. Woo!
Side hug.
If you were here, we have side hugs. Wink. But this week we're continuing our series on love song. We're talking about purity and redemption. And honestly, the actual name of this series, and what I'm basing it off of, this particular set was actually called God Honoring Sex. And that was the title of it. And I didn't feel comfortable putting that title like on Facebook, just because I'm cool with talking about it with you, but not everyone's cool about youth minister posting something like that. So, just so you know, have any of you ever, and this is rhetorical by the way, I do not want hands raised or yeses or any out of you, but have you ever had the awkward conversation? Do you know the awkward conversation? I mean, the extremely awkward conversation whenever your parents sit you down. If you're a girl, maybe it was your mom. If you're a boy, maybe it's your dad. If it was the opposite of that, made it even more awkward, right? The awkward sex talk. That time when they come there, they come in, you don't know why, you think you're in trouble. You know, in that moment they're like, hey, just come in and have a seat. We need to talk about something. And you're like, what did I do? And then they're like, well, you're getting older now, and you're going to start having urges, and you're like, Mom, I don't want to talk about this, right? There's this moment that usually comes in every young. You may not have had it yet, and if you haven't, that's okay. Whenever I was 18 years old, week before I go off to college, my father decides to sit me down. I don't know who just ran in, but have fun with that. My father sits me down. He's like, son, and I'm like, here we go. He's like, and it's this very poignant conversation where my father says, you're about to go off to college. Yes, I am. And well, what I gotta say is, my father's just like struggling. It's like, and he's like, well, son, let me put it this way. If you don't let the horse out of the barn, you're not going to have little studs running around. Okay. That was my sex talk from my parents. It's like, oh, done. There we go. Great talk, Dad. Thanks a lot. Yeah, I'm not equestrian, but I knew what it meant, but I'm just saying. I was just like, really? Horses metaphor? Okay. But more than likely, at some point in time, you're going to have the talk. And if you don't, that's okay. This is not a substitute for the talk, what we're talking about today. But what we're talking about today is, a lot of times, parents and people in general have trouble actually talking about sex. Now, I'm not talking about joking, because we have joking about sex down super well. Guys, all the time you're making jokes about it. Girls, you may be, but generally I haven't had a lot of girls make jokes about it around me, but maybe you do in your own circles. I don't know what you do. But we joke about it all the time. In fact, actually, with my family, joking about it was not taboo. We had no problem with it. But to sit down and actually have a conversation was like, they would rather you take a hot iron and just put it in their hand and be like, okay, now we don't have to have that talk because I endured something. A lot of times we have trouble talking about sex. And in church, it's even worse. Because whenever we get in church, it becomes like, oh, he said the S word. I'm like, what did he say? Is he talking about feces? Sex. Ah! Right? It's like what we do a lot of times, what the church often does is let's slap purity on that and just be like, oh, gotta stay pure, stay pure, stay pure. All about purity. And let's not talk about it, let's talk about staying pure. We don't want to use that kind of language in here, God, he's not a fan of that word, right? So this is what happens a lot of times in church. And honestly, whenever we just slap it with purity, I feel like we're doing a disservice. Because almost every year at some point in time we have the purity talk, right? And I've actually had some of you tell me like, oh, I dread the purity talk. It's just like, here we go again, I just want to be very real with you about this. Whenever we're talking about purity, a Bible verse I want to play to show us Romans 12:1. It says this. It says, therefore I urge you, brethren, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a living and holy sacrifice acceptable to God, which is your spiritual service of worship. Okay, purity has to do with sex. It has to do with your mindset. It has to do with your thoughts. It has to do with everything. When we're talking about purity, being pure, it's not limited to just whether you have sex or not. But a lot of times we hear that those two things, like, what does purity equal? No sex. No. Well, here's the question. When you get married, are you able to stay pure after that? Because if it is, no sex is purity, then whenever you get married, you're going to become impure. It's going to happen. And, that's part of the marriage benefits is getting to have sex. So does it eliminate purity? No. Obviously, purity is being acceptable. It's being clean before God. It means that your life, your living is one of the standards that He has set about loving Him with all you got, living your life for Him. Okay? So, whenever we talk about sex, whenever we talk about purity, it's more of a conversation of a holistic nature. It's more about your whole life as far as purity goes. But sex oftentimes has that label slapped on it. Yes, I'm keeping account, by the way, how many times I can say sex. I'm just going to let you know. I'll let you know at the end. But a lot of times we put this idea on it that it's bad. It's bad. It's bad. Don't do that, right? It's awful. No. And a lot of times the church has been bad about this too. Just being like, oh, yeah, it's awful. It's bad. Honestly, if it was bad and awful, nobody'd be doing it outside of marriage. It'd be like eating Brussels sprouts. If it was good to eat Brussels, if it tasted great, and you'd be all about Brussels sprouts. But who in here actually likes Brussels sprouts? I'm not really judging you, but I'm just thinking, ugh. All right? But we sit there and we go, okay, obviously there's some good to it. But if you want to have great sex, if you want to have God-honoring sex, it comes in marriage. And actually, we're gonna read through the honeymoon night together of these two people that we read about last week. Yeah, fun, right? We're going to read right through it. We're going to talk about it. And the reason we're talking about it is because I think we have this idea. The world says, oh man, sex outside of marriage, this free, loose thing is great. It's wonderful. There's no strings attached. It's just awesome. There's no worries. And honestly, it's very damaging. It can be very hurtful. It can destroy intimacy for later. And the world doesn't tell you that part. They just say, oh, it's good. Well, I want you to know within marriage, sex is great. You don't really get to preach that much, but we're going to talk about God actually kind of lays out what God-honoring sex looks like in marriage. And some of you are still grimacing at me. I'm sorry, but there's going to be a lot more of this, okay? So here we go. We're going to kind of jump in here. First off, and this is going to be a little more playful, so just bear with me, all right? When is a guy ready for sex? Thank you. I had a girl tell me. All the time, right? Guys, you are. Let's just be honest, Well, thank you. Middle note. Maddie said all the time. All right. Yeah, so, and then you like grunted back there. So, yes, guys are ready for this all the time, and this is actually for you in your marriage. These are some tips for you on whenever it comes to sex when you're married. Okay, we're going to read through this because God has a plan for this to be good. So we're going to talk about 4 qualities of God-honoring sex. And the first one is this: God-honoring sex starts before the bedroom. Okay? Starts before the bedroom. Guys, it's like, anything. Be like, you can turn anything into talking about sex. Be like, oh, we're going to I need you to change the oil in the car. I can change the oil. What? It doesn't matter. Like you said, drop the hat. Guys are ready to go. Girl is like microwave oven compared to like a crock pot, right? The girls for the most part are not, the guys, if you don't know this yet, girls for the most part are not going to be like, You said sex, let's have sex. Boom, hey. And I'm talking, everything's within marriage now, by the way. Everything's within marriage now. So it doesn't work like that. You don't come up, you're not like, hey, hubba, hubba, and then she's like, oh, take me. No, that's not how this works, okay? We're gonna get real. We're getting real tonight, all right? And I'm not saying it again. All right, so within marriage, we see it even in here, that sex starts long before the bedroom. It starts long before you come to that moment of, hey, and all that. All right? So here's where we go. We're going to start Song of Solomon. I can't speak. Chapter 4, verses 1, 2. This is him. He's saying, how beautiful you are, my darling. How beautiful your eyes behind your veil are like doves. Now, this is after they're married. This is honeymoon, okay? Your hair is like a flock of goats descending from the hills of Gilead. Okay? Your teeth are like a flock of sheep just shorn, coming up from the washing. Each has its twin. Not one of them is alone. What is he saying? This is actually some good compliments, okay? First off, he's saying, let your hair down. Okay? She lets her hair down. Normally the hair is up, she lets her hair down. And he's like, yes, your hair down is beautiful. Look at it, it's like goats. It's like, they don't have a lot of beautiful things, I guess. Goats descending down the hill. So let your hair down. And then the next thing he's saying is that your teeth are white. Now, what do they not have back in these days? Toothbrush, toothpaste. Like having white teeth is really an awesome thing. And once more, it says, each has its twin. She has all her teeth. Woo! Hot dog. She has all her teeth in her mouth. Right there. It looks perfect. Now, that's what he's saying. He's saying, you have a beautiful mouth. That's what he's saying. Your teeth are all there. None are rotted out. You haven't been eating too much candy. All right? So, what is he doing? What is he doing? He's building intimacy. Okay? He's building up intimacy. He's talking with her. He's giving her compliments. He's letting her know how beautiful she is. He's going through this process. He doesn't say, hey, bedroom, 5 minutes, let's go. He says, you're beautiful. Your hair is wonderful. You have all your teeth. And you have great chompers. And, he's saying this stuff. He's building her up. So what this really does, what this is really showing is that he's taken time to build intimacy. Guys, and a lot of my advice is going to be for guys, because guess what? I'm a guy. So guys, just if you didn't know, cat's out of the bag. Guys, this is something that a lot of you don't know, is that one of the sexiest things you can do as a husband, for some is, and hold on, let me get my paper out, is doing the dishes, is cleaning a toilet, is thinking about your wife earlier in the day and maybe buying her flowers. Maybe coming home to do something that she would normally do that's a job for her, and you come and you do that. Why? Why is this so important? Because you're thinking of her. You're showing that you value her, not just for the hubba in the bedroom, but you value her for all of her. Okay, so in this book I read, and if you ever get engaged or whatever, you expect me to send this book to you. It's called, oh shoot, it's a bad time to forget the name of it. It's called, crap, it's not called crap. It's called something. It's a great book, and it's written, one of them's for girls, one of them's for guys, and it's basically everything girls need to know about guys, and then vice versa, for guys, everything you need to know about girls, from girls' perspective, from guys' perspective. And I'll remember it probably tomorrow, and I'll let you know. But this book, it talks about how a lot of times we need to build the intimacy. We need to take that time. And that's what he's doing here. He's complimenting her. He's taking the time to build up this rapport, okay? Then he keeps going on, okay? Next thing, verse 3, he says this. He says, your lips are like scarlet ribbon. Your mouth is lovely. I think we already covered that. Anyway, your mouth is lovely. Your temples behind your veil are like halves of a pomegranate. Your neck, your neck is like the Tower of David, built with courses of stone. What is this basically saying? He's saying, he already said he had a pretty mouth. We pretty much figured that out. He's also saying you have rosy cheeks. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about rosy cheeks, like pomegranate. Not like you just got your wisdom teeth out and like swollen. We're talking about rosy cheeks. And then we're talking about that she has a beautiful neck. She has a nice neck. It's up straight. It's not slouched. It's a per neck. All right? So if you can tell, we're working our way south. We're going to keep going. All right? So God-honoring sex. This is your second thing. Yes, we all like, oh, when is this going to be over? All right. God-honoring sex. Second thing says it is passionate. A lot of times a lot of people say, oh, the best sex is outside of marriage when it's wild and crazy and free. No, actually statistics say that married people have better sex lives than those who are living the wild and free life. They have more enjoyable sex, better sex, and sex within marriage is passionate. Here we go. Let's get passionate. Verse 5. Your breasts are like two fawns, like twin fawns of a gazelle that browse among the lilies.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All the hunters in the room were like, yeah, I'm feeling that. All right. Metaphorically. All right, so basically, for my hunters in the room, if you're not a hunter, I'm a horrible hunter. You know why? I'm not quiet. There's not a gentleness to my walk. And whenever I'm walking through the woods, you can hear me coming. Crump, 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 crump. Up deer. You know what? You know what you say happens when you say up deer? It up and it leaves. You can't. How do you approach fawns? With gentleness. Okay? And yes, this is what it's talking about. It's not like he comes, bursting in like, whoa, look at them fawns. Man, they look good. That's big fawns. I don't know. It's not coming in like that. It's not this rambunctious, here we go. You got to be gentle in your approach. You don't need to be ravenous. You got to be gentle. You're going to scare away those fawns. Okay? So this is what we're talking about. So what am I saying? I'm saying, guys, we need to work on our approach. Our approach needs to be thinking of her, not of us. You're not running a race. This is not like a drag race here. This is like a marathon. So what you're doing is you are working on your approach. You're coming in. You're not going to scare her away. You're not going to be, rough. And of course, you're going to be what she needs. All right? So guys' approach you need to work on. Girls, whenever you're married, just make an approach. Does not matter what your approach is. Guys aren't as difficult to please. Basically, you come and just hey, tonight, hubba hubba. Yeah. That's how it's gonna be. So just make one. Whenever you get within marriage here, make one. This is what marriage looks like. That's not sign language for marriage. Okay, so this is what you want. You're working on this intimacy. You're diving in. Okay, so we're going to keep going. It gets better and better. Verse 6 says, it gets better. Until the day breaks and the shadows flee, I will go to the mountain of myrrh and to the hill of incense. You know what this means? She's saying, I will go to the morning, till the sun rises, all night long. All night long. That's what he said. That's what we're doing. The intimacy has been built. Okay? We're talking about passionate. It's going to be an event. I hope you ate your Wheaties this morning. It's going to be an event. We're going to go. And this is what he's saying. All night long. All night long. Right? Y'all are never going to view this chapel the same way again, right? So it's what it's saying, okay? I mean, hashtag, that's in the Bible, folks. That is right there. You have the verse of the day, right? Within marriage. All right, we're having a lot of fun, but this is within the veil of marriage. All right, now we're going to keep going on. God-honoring sex is built on absolute trust. Okay? The verse is this. Verse 7 says, you are altogether beautiful, my darling. There is no flaw in you. Now, sex is basically the most intimate thing you can ever do with someone else. And whenever it is the most revealing thing you can do with anyone else, it can be the most insecure time. It can be a lot of things. I mean, and we laugh about this, but there's literally nothing in between you. You see all of him, she sees all of you. This is where this is. And this is, without absolute trust, this is a scary thing. This is one of the reasons why it can be so damaging whenever you are having sex outside of marriage, because there is no trust built. There is no commitment there. There's none of that. And so tomorrow someone might be saying, oh, that person that you had that issue with that night, the next day the trust is not built. They may go share exploits with what happened. You know, this is why it's so important. Absolute trust. He respects her body. She respects his. Now, guys, you may be like, I don't care what I look like. You'll care. You'll have a moment. You'll go, man, maybe I should go for a jog first. I don't know. Or not eat for a week. But one of the most hurtful things you can do, both girls and guys, is to ever make negative comments about your spouse's body. And this is something that he doesn't do. He's saying, there's no flaw in you. You're beautiful to me. This is, because if you sit there and you're like, well, 25 years into marriage, the fawns may be not like two fawns, but maybe like two falls. There might be something that, there's your visual. All right. It may be like that. I'm going to go ahead and tell you, usually at the point in which you're married, which usually happens in your 20s, can happen later, but there's usually not like, I'm going to look better down the road. Usually, physically to everyone else's eyes, you're not going to look as good as you probably do on your wedding day. Don't be depressed about that. It's kind of a fact of life. The older you get, the less physical physique you really have. But within marriage, you are respecting their body. You are showing this love. You're building this absolute trust. You're going to be completely intimate with them, and they're not going to hurt you. Because you have this commitment of marriage. You have this commitment, this thing of going, okay, you know what? We've committed. This is all open. I completely trust you. All right, so this is what we're having right here. This part of it. It's before the bedroom. You're building it up. You have this passion. You have absolute trust. And then the last part is this: God-honoring sex is holy. Okay? Verse 12. You are a garden locked up, my sister, my bride. Now, it's not actually his sister, but they're within the same tribe, okay? This isn't Alabama talking. No, I'm kidding. I have family in Alabama. But this is, he's talking about you are an Israelite. You're a part of our family. So my sister, my bride, you are a spring enclosed, a sealed fountain. Your plants are an orchard of pomegranates with choice fruits. What are we actually talking about? He's actually talking about, in this sense, we're talking about that she saved herself for marriage. She was a garden locked up. She was a sealed fountain. She waited. She waited for marriage for her to have sex. And the Bible talks about a covenant. The man leaves his father and mother and is united with his wife. The two become one flesh. Actually, whenever you got married back then, just a fun FYI fact, when you got married, the marriage wasn't final until you had sex. That was what consecrated the marriage. And so, literally, at weddings, fun stuff, you'd have the wedding, then you'd be like, woo, yay, yeah, you're married. And then you would walk, we're just going to pretend like it's in church. But basically what you do is you walk back down the aisle, and then they had a tent right there. And everyone's still there until the marriage is consummated. Aren't we glad we don't do that anymore, right? So but the whole point is that it consummated, the marriage was final through having sex. It was the part of the covenant. That was the final thing. Some of you are like, golly, I can't imagine your mom and dad sitting there. Oh, no. But that's just how it was commonplace back then. But he's saying, save yourself for this covenant. Now I'm going to stop right here for a second. Because I want to talk a little bit about redemption, okay? And actually, if I could have one of my adults step out here to make sure no one comes in early, just because I don't want the middle schoolers coming back in, because we're not going to finish until we need to. Thank you. We're going to talk about redemption for a second, because not everyone can say that they're in this spot. Not everyone can say that they've saved themselves from marriage, whether it's physically the actual act of sex, or maybe it was maybe through watching pornography or something along those lines. Maybe it was taken from you. Maybe it was something that you didn't have a choice from. We can be redeemed from anything. I mean, and it's something, because it's so emotional, because it's something that's so intimate. Whenever something like that happens, whenever you have sex before marriage, or whenever this time comes and you realize what you've done, it can be really hurtful. It can be really damaging. And I've even had friends of mine who say, you know what, that's a thing that crosses off of my list, that if they're not a virgin, then I don't want any part of that. And I want to say to you this, that God's redemptive power redeems you from every sin. Everything. All right? Whether it's murdering someone, whether it's calling someone a bad name, whether it's sex before marriage, willingly or unwillingly, whatever, God's redemptive power is for all of us, and it covers anything and everything. So if you've already gone past that point, it's not like, oh man, it's up. I'm no longer worthy. I mean, guess what? No one's worthy. No one's worthy of being saved. No one's worthy of this. And I want to get that in your head very clear. Because some of us carry around such guilt because of our past actions that we're like, man, I don't even deserve a good marriage. I don't even deserve the stuff that we're talking about because I messed up. I want to read a little bit to you from Romans, and it says this, starting verse 21. But now God has shown us a way to be made right with Him without keeping the requirements of the law, as was promised in the writings of Moses and the prophets long ago. We are made right with God by placing our faith in Jesus. We are made right. We are made whole. We are made clean. Everything wiped away when we place our faith in Jesus. And this is true for everyone who believes, no matter who you are. For everyone has sinned. We have all fallen short of God's glorious standard. Yet God freely and graciously declares that we are righteous. He did this through Christ Jesus when He freed us from the penalty of our sin. For God presented Jesus as a sacrifice for sin. People are made right with God when they believe that Jesus sacrificed His life, shedding His blood. This sacrifice shows that God was being fair when He held back and did not punish those who had sinned in times past, for He was looking ahead and included them in what He would do in this present time. God did this to demonstrate His righteousness, for He Himself is fair and just. And He declares sinners to be right in His sight when they believe in Jesus. No matter what you've done before marriage. Now, I want to clarify, this is not giving you license to be like, oh, I'm just going to go mess up and whatever, and then God's redemptive power. Yes, God's redemptive power is there. This is saying, whatever you've messed up, however, how deep, how vast, how awful you think it is, nothing is out of the reach of God. Nothing. And you know what? It's not that you don't deserve, that's what we do. We say, oh man, I don't even deserve a great marriage. No. God has a redemptive plan for every one of us because every one of us has fallen short. Okay? So for anyone who's fallen either physically or thought life or wherever, redemptive power is there for us. Okay? So I don't want to end on this downer, but I just want you to know that it is for everyone. This godly marriage can be had by everyone. And in fact, we're gonna finish out here. We're gonna finish it off here with the rest of the wonderful talk here. This is what he says in verse 15. Yeah. You are a garden fountain, a well of flowing water streaming down from Lebanon. She says, awake, north wind, and come, south wind, blow on my garden. Yeah. That its fragrance may spread everywhere. Let my beloved come into his garden and taste his choice fruits. Yes. And with that, we're going to pray. And you're going to go home. Or stay for a meeting. All right. Be by your heads with me. Father God, I know there's a lot of people out there really thanking you that we're done talking about this. But God, I thank you for sex. God, I thank you for making this wonderful thing, this great and glorious, that gives honor to you. God, I thank you for redeeming us. That no matter what mistakes we made in the past, that you can heal them, you can remove them, you can wash it white as snow, God. And we thank you for that. We thank you for that redemptive power. God, I pray that as each person leaves out of here, God, and as we go through our week, God, I pray that we focus on you. That we keep our garden sealed, that we stay sexually pure, that we stay pure in all aspects of our life as we pursue you in our lives. God, I pray that we don't give in to what the world says about sex, and that we know that you have made it glorious and wonderful and within marriage. I thank you for the endurance of everyone out here to listen to me. And I pray, God, that you just bless them in all decisions that they make. In your name, Lord Jesus, I pray. Amen.